Come on, man. What are we talking about?
Right and wrong.
Come on, man. What are we talking about?
Right and wrong.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Whoa.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Whoa.
Come on, man. What are we talking about?
Right and wrong.
Come on, man. What are we talking about?
Right and wrong.
Welcome to Right and Wrong. This is the show where we try to wake up the woke by talking common sense about the issues of the day. I'm your host, Brian Ruka, and with me as always over there is my man and yours, producer Juice. He goes by the name Truthbox out there on the World Wide Web. So my man Truth, what is going on tonight, brother? How you feeling?
Feeling great. Wake 'em up, baby.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
Wake up the woke. Been doing that for a while. Still
We have been
trying,
doing it
right?
for a while. We continue to try, and we do it with your support on our YouTube pages, our Rumble pages, Apple, Spotify. Please subscribe to the show, like us, and throw us a comment if you don't mind.
Algorithm.
I love it. So, people always say that history is doomed to repeat itself. Now, I think it's a strange thing to say if you think about it. History is simply the study of past events. So how can history control world events today? Whether the person using the phrase history is doomed to repeat itself realizes it or not, what they're really talking about is original sin. They're looking back on the continuous rise and fall of human beings. You see, it's in our nature to take 2 steps forward, then 1 step back. With every great success in human achievement, we tend to gain a heightened sense of self-worth. We become prideful, our egos grow, and we inevitably fall. It makes me think of that line that they hammer home in The Dark Knight. You either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. Now, I think in the movie, that's more of a commentary on the people of Gotham than it is Batman, but it still works for my analogy here. It works because it's yet another way of describing human nature and original sin. Batman himself swoops in and plays the hero and makes everyone's life better. He becomes impressed with himself, thinks he's won, and he thinks he can have it all, only to get destroyed both personally and professionally by the Joker. Mankind has gone on a similar journey of highs and lows. It's not the same kind of journey as a superhero in a DC comic book series, but the history of mankind is littered with good and bad decisions made by rulers of the day. Historical periods are remembered by who was in charge at the time. Who were the leaders and what did they do? When you think about World War II, you think about men like Churchill, Roosevelt, Truman, Stalin, Mussolini, and Hitler. The Roman Empire brings to mind people like Caesar, Augustus, Nero, Marcus Aurelius, Tiberius. Do you want to talk about the American Revolution? The founding fathers of the United States of America? You'll hear about George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison. Now, those last men that I mentioned, they prided themselves on being students of history. They studied civilizations of the past. They analyzed the styles of governments that were in place. They noticed that history continued to repeat itself, or rather that human nature is corrupted. They observed that the fall of the past great nations were a result of too much power going to government, which ultimately, without the proper checks and balances in place, will get usurped by an emperor or a king, or even perhaps a president, who then rules over the people without any accountability. I bring this up because, as we'll talk about on today's show, the consolidation of power in America is well underway. We've sat and watched as a small handful of powerful players with deep pockets forced the man who won the vote of the people to drop out of the presidential race. We're currently witnessing his replacement duck and dodge accountability for her disastrous vice presidency the way White Goodman ducks a Peter LaFleur heater in dodgeball. The press hasn't been interested in finding the truth or working for the people in years. Instead, they've subjected themselves to being on the same level as those hyenas in The Lion King. They're content with being at the party as long as the king throws them a few scraps from time to time. Our Congress resembles the Roman Senate more and more by the day as they strive to be considered the important members of society rather than being the nerdy lawmakers they were elected to be. We will get into how the heavy hand of the government bureaucracy successfully shut down free speech in order to influence a presidential election in the same way that Rocket Man over in North Korea would be taking notes to see how this is done. Ladies, gentlemen, Bass, I'm sorry to say that we have reached the point when history is repeating itself right in front of our eyes. And if we don't succeed in November, I fear this will be remembered as the beginning of the end. And with that being said, I do believe it's time to welcome in our good friend, Mr. Ric Flair, because it's showtime, baby. Woo!
Showtime!
Oh, Juice, I can't believe I stumbled over that Rocket Man line.
What, the Rocket Man from North Carolina?
Yep. You know what I meant. You get it.
Yeah. Kim Jong.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's him. That would be the man. All right. So, big news over the weekend that we all know about by now, but Bobby Kennedy Jr. has officially dropped out and endorsed Donald Trump for president. And it has been a bleep storm, to say the least. The Dems are losing their mind, right, Juice?
Absolutely. It's fun to watch.
It really is fun to watch. And they are going after his wife, Cheryl from Curb Your Enthusiasm. She's a, actress, celeb type. And, most of her friends are probably libs themselves. So they weren't happy that her husband was seeking the third party nomination. But now that he's full on embraced.
Really is Cheryl from.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No,
Team
100%.
Cheryl.
Oh, yeah. Team Cheryl, baby. We're choosing Cheryl.
Team Cheryl and Team Larry are both Team Kamala, right?
No, this Cheryl's Team Trump now. She's on board, man. She backs her man. I love it. But all of her friends are just being mean to her and bullying her. It's sad to see.
Larry David, man. I can't. Like, he's like, I haven't watched this season or whatever, but I was wearing a MAGA hat to something the other day.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, you see Curb Your Enthusiasm? Like, he wears that hat whenever he wants to get out of a conversation or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I had it on backwards. I took it around and put it forwards. Like, okay, I'm doing that now.
Converse. Yeah, run along.
Trying to get out of this conversation.
I
haven't seen that, but thanks.
Yeah, goes the other way too. Awesome. Well, I highly recommend you guys go and watch RFK's concession. I don't think it's a concession speech. What would that be called if you just like?
I don't know.
Suspend your
Endorsement / campaign suspension.
Yeah.
Like, because he didn't really lose. Like,
exactly.
You concede when the count is going against you.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
Yeah, I'd just rather call it an endorsement speech.
That's a good point. But go and watch that. I highly recommend it. He spoke for close to 40 minutes when he did it, and it was great. But
tough watch, 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's a tough watch. 40 minutes of listening to this.
That's horrible, but it is hard. Like, it's like, dude, you must be.
It's very hard.
Like, get the guy a lozenge.
So what we did was we broke the press conference down a little bit, and we basically I think the opening 15 minutes is just straight fire. He kind of talks about why he got out, but then he leans in and he just like ruthlessly takes out the Democratic Party and the powers that be at the DNC and the mainstream media and all that. So we kind of broke it down. We got 4 clips that we're going to give to you and kind of talk about each one as we get them. So I guess let's jump right into number 1 when he's addressing the Democratic Party, Juice.
In the name of saving democracy, The Democratic Party set itself to dismantling it, lacking confidence in its candidate, that its candidate could win in a fair election at the voting booth. The DNC waged continual legal warfare against both President Trump and myself. Each time that our volunteers turned in those towering boxes of signatures needed to get on the ballot, the DNC dragged us into court, state after state, attempting to erase their work and to subvert the will of the voters who had signed those petitions. It deployed DNC-aligned judges to throw me and other candidates off the ballot and to throw President Trump in jail. It ran a sham primary that was rigged to prevent any serious challenge to President Biden. Then, when a predictably bungled debate performance precipitated the palace coup against President Biden, the same shadowy DNC operatives appointed his successor, also without an election. They installed a candidate who was so unpopular with voters that she dropped out in 2020 without winning a single delegate. My uncle and my father both relished debate. They prided themselves on their capacity to go toe-to-toe with any opponent in the battle over ideas. They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days. This is profoundly undemocratic. How are people to choose when they don't know whom they are choosing? And how can this look to the rest of the world?
Fire, right?
Yeah, it's great.
Unbelievable. There's a lot in there. And early on, when he mentions Biden predictably bungled through the debate performance.
The word installed that I love, and that's exactly what happened. Installed her.
He's right. Yeah. The palace coup, he said,
Yeah,
right?
he hit all the good
coup.
words.
And he's right. I mean, that's what it is. There's no doubt in my mind that man would be the Democratic nominee. He'd be the Democrats' nominee if he was allowed to enter the primary as a Democrat. And
Yeah, I disagree with a lot. I disagree with a lot of what he says. Not in that clip, but
Yeah.
I disagree with a lot of his would-be policies.
Overall.
But the guy's for democracy.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly. And the things that he said about
Free
his father and
speech
his
and for
uncle.
that. Yeah.
You know,
Toe-to-toe on the debate stage.
Let's do this. Because
Grew
they
up
had,
like in the debate club. Like,
absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And those
but also
guys
running the school, rich, but like debate club.
True. But those dudes that he talked about, JFK and Bobby, definitely JFK. Bobby, pretty good too. Maybe a lesser extent than his brother, but phenomenal like charisma to the two of them, and could definitely handle themselves in a live setting, in a live situation. That, in fact, they strive in something like that, where Kamala Harris is the exact opposite. What?
I think they thrive in something like that.
Oh yeah, not strive. Strive to go do that.
Yeah.
Strive to thrive, baby.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks for picking me up there, brother.
Mhm.
But it's just insane that she's still gone at that point in his clip 35 days. And I think by the time this thing hits the airwaves here, this episode is going to be the night that Kamala's finally going to do a one-on-one interview. Not even a one-on-one. It's a 2-on-1 because
she's bringing Coach Walls with him.
Yeah, she's bringing Coach with her to get her out of trouble with CNN. So she is scheduled to do that on Thursday night, but that's a week after RFK's comments. So that's another, she's up to 40 days, 40 something days without taking a single unscripted question. And this CNN thing's not going to be unscripted. I'm sure she'll get the questions ahead of time. And it's not even live. They're going to be able to, it's taped, it's pre-taped. So you don't think they're going to get their hands in there and put some pressure on CNN to edit out any flubs that she might have? if she says something like strive when she's trying to say thrive, they'll edit that thing right out.
Followed by
put
a
her back
cackle.
on. Yeah, exactly. So crazy, but good for Kennedy there for bringing that up. All right, the second one we have, he's going to kind of lean in a little bit more on Kamala. So let's hear what he has to say about her.
Instead of showing us her substance and character, the DNC and its media organs engineered a surge of popularity for Vice President Harris based upon, nothing. No policies, no interviews, no debates, only smoke and mirrors and balloons in a highly produced Chicago circus. There in Chicago, a string of Democratic speakers mentioned Donald Trump 147 times just on the first day. Well, who needs a policy when you have Trump to hate? In contrast, at the RNC convention, President Biden was mentioned only twice in 4 days.
Only smoke and mirrors, man, right? They're trying to skate by on joy and happiness and do something.
And just, flipping every policy. Now she's building a border wall, you saw.
Exactly.
She's for the wall.
Now she's for, but you see the skill behind it that they're doing it. Well, it's not skill. It's just deception. Is she's not actually saying anything about it. It's all her little, they're leaking something to the media from an aide.
I heard, rumor has it on, Friday night.
Rumor has it.
And just slip it into the weekend. Oh, she's for the wall.
Oh,
and then it's like comes up on all the news.
Exactly.
There's no snippet of her saying it.
No, and nobody's asked her, oh, well, why did you think this way one day and now this, years later, what changed? What made you change your mind?
You think they'll ask her tonight? Why did you used to call ICE the KKK, but now you're building a border wall?
Exactly.
Seems like a question you would ask.
Coach would jump in. Coach
well,
would
you
say,
see,
when I put tampons in the boys' bathroom, it wasn't because all right, let's keep this thing moving right along and get to maybe my favorite of the clips we have from RFK here, where he made the direct comparison between Putin in Russia, the left's boogeyman, and President Biden for the way that these people like to handle elections in their country.
I'm laughing at that thing when Biden was like, "Oh, let me introduce to you President Putin." When it was
Zelensky. Yeah. Oh, it's great.
There you go.
President Biden mocked Vladimir Putin's 88% landslide in the Russian elections, observing that Putin and his party controlled the Russian press and that Putin prevented serious opponents from appearing on the ballot. But here in America, the DNC also prevented opponents from appearing on the ballot. And our television networks exposed themselves as Democratic Party organs. Over the course of more than a year in a campaign where my poll numbers reached at times in the high 20s, the DNC-aligned mainstream media networks maintain a near perfect embargo on interviews with me. During his 10-month presidential campaign in 1992, Ross Perot gave 34 interviews on mainstream networks. In contrast, during the 16 months since I declared, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN combined gave only 2 live interviews from me.
That one stands out big time to me. The Ross Perot thing. Like crazy. I didn't realize that. I do remember the name from when we were kids. Like that's one of like the first presidential elections that I remember like hearing about. But I remember the name Ross Perot and stuff. And it's crazy to think that guy was given, opportunity at least to try to sell himself to the American people, to try to interview for the job of president, even though he was not coming from one of the 2 major parties where RFK was buried. They just destroyed the guy. and gave him no opportunities at all. And like he said, that like what do you say? At one point, he was up in the 20s, while the other candidates were in the 30s. So he was close. And that's why earlier I said, like, if he was able to run as a Democrat and they actually let him, in the primary and ran an actual primary with Biden, I think he would have beat him. I think Democrats would have voted for him. I really do. And he got hosed. And it's crazy. I like that line about Russia too, with the 80, like Biden mocked, what do you say, like 88% victory by Putin. Biden, if he had the chance, he'd be like, oh, I beat President Trump by 115%, Jack. 115% of the vote. Come on.
It's crazy, but like I don't know how you do it, but there should be some type of law or qualification, or like you have to do this amount of things. Like people, like when whatever, maybe the clip before this, what are you voting for? You need to find out what you're voting for. But still, like
Exactly.
half the country is gonna vote for this person who you don't know. Like
Exactly.
all these things that she is talking about are all flip flopped, or the
Mhm.
ones that are leaking out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, how can you vote for this person if you don't know what you're voting for? But
Exactly.
I guess it doesn't have to be a law. It's like, okay, the right thing would be don't vote for somebody if you don't know what they
Yeah.
stand for.
Yeah. 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 Like if
Make
we
your own
allow this
party
to
come out
happen,
and say what are we voting for here?
yeah, like if we as a people, as a country, allow this to happen to ourselves, we get what we deserve. Then, right? Basically,
Yeah, yeah. If half the
unfortunately.
more than half the people or whatever what the electoral
Oh,
electoral
see,
college.
oh, you
But
did
you
it
know what I mean?
too.
If she ends up winning, then yeah, these people are that if she doesn't come out with the policy, and even
Yeah,
if she does, like if she does these flip flop things, she's just doing that to get elected.
of course, of course.
And every politician does a little bit of that, but like her
Hmm.
whole everything flips so
That's
far.
literally the whole game for her.
Yeah.
And you know what she's gonna bank on, like her what do they say? What's the thing? Like defend the Alamo? Like the last thing that you're gonna like defend, retreat to, and surround yourself with is like censorship, right? That's what she's gonna rely on. So like when all else fails, let's just sit back and let the disinformation, fake information, nonsense, like save me. Just long enough. She has 70 days now or whatever to do it. So RFK touched on the censorship involved with this stuff too. So I think we can let him wrap it up for us with the last clip of his we have, Juice.
The mainstream media was once the guardian of the First Amendment and democratic principles, and has joined this systemic attack on democracy. The media justifies their censorship on the grounds of combating misinformation, but governments and oppressors don't censor lies. They don't fear lies. They fear the truth, and that's what they censor.
Great. That's a great.
Bingo. I want that. Like he should campaign that. Trump, like throw that up there. Government doesn't, they don't fear lies. They fear the truth. The censorship regime. And that's what it is. And like to that point, and speaking of censorship, I hope you guys all saw that Mark Zuckerberg sent a letter to Congress just the other day to Jim Jordan, and it had everything to do with censorship. And it's a story we've hit on at times on the show here. And he was dragged in front of Congress at one point. And honestly, it's probably the biggest story that there is, because this is the game right here. If you don't have access to the public square, you can't even fight. You can't. How can you win the game if you're not even allowed on the court? You know, so it's wild. Juice, you got anything before I read from the letter here that he wrote?
No, just back to the RFK thing though. It's like if they're ever saying any little bit of like that's fake, don't look at that, whatever, dig deep on that because that's really
True.
what's happening.
True. That
Yeah.
should be the bell going off, right?
Yeah, okay, we gotta look here, or
Yeah.
whenever they're doing something like give you one piece of information here, it's like, "Hey, let's look deeper into the thing that they're releasing at the same time,"
Yeah, yeah.
they
Like,
try to,
what are
like,
they
"Look
not
over
telling us?
here," save something for a Friday afternoon,
Yep,
that
exactly. I mean,
kinda
it's like
stuff.
that whole this isn't quite censorship, but when they tell you the description of like a, white male with a gun takes out 10 people in a shooting, and then if it's like, a trans shooter at a Christian school, they just say like, "Oh, gun killed
Mhm.
kids at a school." Like, it's that's not complete censorship. That's just, being shady with the facts, but I think it's same kind of idea behind the two, like what you were saying there. So,
Agreed, yeah, but do you have, details on what Zuck had to say?
so Zuckerberg sent a letter to Congress, and I'm going to read from it here. It says, "There's a lot of talk right now around how the US government interacts with companies like Meta, and I want to be clear about our position. Our platforms are for everyone. We're about promoting speech and helping people connect in a safe and secure way. As part of this, we regularly hear from governments around the world and others with various concerns about public discourse and public safety. In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take content down, and we own our decision, including COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I also think we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. Like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. Now, let's hold tight there for a second, Juice. There's one more paragraph I want to get to, but boy, was that loaded right there, huh?
Yeah, but it's, like, great to come out and say it now, but also, like, the Biden administration is nothing, you know what I mean? Like, you did
That's
it.
true.
That's horrible that you did it. Cool, thanks for admitting it now, but it's easy to
Too
admit it
little,
when
too
a
late.
lot of people are turning on like, everybody's kicking Biden while he's down, and now you're
That's
saying
true.
now you're
That's
coming
true.
clean about it, like, "No, you should never have done it in the first place." You know, exactly, too little too late, but it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing, but great point. And it would have been the icing on top if he said the Biden Harris administration.
Mhm, he didn't?
No, he just said the
Yeah,
Biden
yeah,
administration.
yeah, so,
They
again,
called themselves that all the time.
yeah,
But
that's my
yeah, that's a
thought.
that's
It's
a
like,
great point.
cool, but you had no balls when it was actually happening.
Exactly. And that's the key for a lot of things. That shows real courage. Like, and again, like not to go too kind of sideways with this here, but that's what was so great about Trump getting up with a bloody ear, like blood streaming down his face and yelling, "Fight, fight, fight," the moment after he just got shot in the head. There's no faking that. It would have been easy for him to come out at the RNC 3 nights later and do that type of thing. The way Zuckerberg in the moment guy turtled and went along with it, where Trump got right back up in the face of adversity and chose to, you know, puff his chest out and do something then and there about it. So that's I didn't think of that at first, like the contrast between styles there, but it is. It's easy to say it 3 years, 4 years later, and everybody's like jumping on board with that type of stuff now, right?
Yeah, like, it's not as much of a risk for him to say it,
True. All right, let's keep going on it. There's more to it, and this piece right now too should hopefully um, affect the way people make their decision coming up in November, I think. So in the letter, it says, quote, in a separate situation, the FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family in Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving the Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for a review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. We've changed our policies and processes to make sure this doesn't happen again. For instance, we no longer temporarily demote things in the US while waiting for the fact checkers. End quote. And
I like that because that's when were doing it previously. That's sneaky way of just we didn't really take it down or censor it. We just demonetized it or demoted it. You know what I mean? Didn't give it the extra
gave it less algorithm juice.
Yeah, right. We didn't juice it.
Well, that
But
was
we never
one
really censored it.
I don't remember about Facebook. I know for sure that that Twitter, you weren't allowed to like DM it to somebody. You couldn't share it even through a DM to people. They just completely clamped down on that story.
Yeah, that was Twitter, not X, right?
Exactly.
But
Twitter, not X.
but
So I don't remember. Facebook might have did the same thing. I think they probably did, to be honest
I
with you.
like that though. Like, hey, we don't know. We're not going to demote it or not. Let people figure it out. Maybe
I'd
the
say
truth will
let them
come out.
share it.
Yeah, the truth will come out maybe through a discourse online.
Exactly.
And then while we're back checking it.
And think about it from the Biden point of view there, right? Like
and then if they do demote it, look into it more because it probably is.
Yeah,
true.
exactly. Check your advice.
Yeah.
100%. But like, so think about it from the Biden point of view there, like his fact checkers, like that's the deep state that everybody warns about. The bureaucracy right there for you at play. That's the FBI, the CIA. They had the 50 guys come out and say that this was classic disinformation. So that type of stuff happening, it played right to their favor that Facebook said, we'll send it to them. We'll check with you guys. Is this the type of stuff you were talking about? And they're sitting there like, wait, what? It's October 30th. Yeah, we'll get back to you. Like Zuckerberg sitting there on the other end looking at a ... Wait,
Mm-hmm.
he's
waiting
for a reply. Still waiting for a response here. Oh, it came in November 15th. Yep. Oh no, story's good now, pal. Too little, too late. You know what I mean? Like, oh, sure, we got to look into it. We're digging into it. Thanks, Hank. We're on top of it.
What's that?
That's from Scream.
Why
don't you check the phone records? You can get every call the kid made.
Yeah, that's so true, though.
Crazy. It's just ridiculous and drives you nuts. And again, that's the stuff like I was talking about in the monologue there. It's like this, like how do you think they're going to get control, and what are they going to do once they have it and keep it? They're going to, like, this right here is the scary stuff. They have control of that. They're never going to let us object anymore. They won't even she won't take questions from reporters, from people. She doesn't want you to hear what her plans or ideas are because you might think for yourself. They want you to do what they're feeding you. They want you to hear what they're feeding you. So it's scary stuff, man. It really is. And I don't know how this doesn't affect the way people vote. I think it should. And you're crazy if you don't see this. But I don't know, Juice. Are we crazy?
No, not crazy. And I'm more so now than ever. I mean, I never really thought this would be an option to happen in the United States, but you see left and right freedom of speech going down the drain. You know, the stuff in the UK, like, coming at you for saying, like, would be in jail 10 times over. And I hope that, like, that's something that's a hill you have to die on. I'm not doing you get in trouble for saying some shit on the internet. or
No.
making fun of the political elites. Like,
No.
we're not doing that.
Nope.
Not happening.
Nope. And that's like I meant to add it in there, and it slipped my mind when I was prepping that. But think back, like all the way to the Bible, right? Like John the Baptist, the guy was beheaded because he was calling out the king. He was calling out Herod, right? Like for taking on a mistress. Like I forget the connection there, but he married someone while married
Mhm.
or whatever. Jorsky will help us tie that one together.
Put it in the
But
comments.
yeah, exactly. But John the Baptist was basically outside the castle calling him a hypocrite and just talking trash basically about the people in power to the people. And instead of combating that because he was clearly wrong, he just arrested him, threw him in jail, and eventually beheaded him. Like that's the stuff you see in communist run countries, like, thought
Yeah, but
police
you're right.
type
You
of thing,
never
shut
thought you'd
down the
see it
dissent.
in, Western Europe
No, not at all. I never thought we would, but we're there. And that's
or
where
the
like
UK, whatever, wherever
yeah.
it's happening.
And that's coming this way. We know it
Yeah, I'm
is.
not having it.
If the Harris Walls ticket wins, it's going to be here sooner than you realize. It really is. So, all right. Not to be all doom and gloom though, Juice. I do want to try to bring a little bit of optimism here because ultimately, I actually do think it's the beginning of the end for Kamala Harris. I really do because
I
I have
hope so,
more faith.
because right now, I mean, it's like 50% of the nation that I
know.
wouldn't want to live near, be,
So
talk to, associate with.
it's
It's just,
true. It's true, but what I'm banking on and what I'm hoping for is that this was the highest of the high for her right now because she's been able to avoid everyone. They had the DNC, they did all this. Now she's going to actually have to do a debate. She's going to actually have to do a few interviews, and she's just a train wreck. It hasn't worked before. The wig coming off, and as hard as the media is going to push to try to make her popular, they're just not going to be able to make fetch happen. They've tried it with her too many times and it doesn't work. She's not like quick enough on her feet. She's not skilled enough. So I think it's going to bite her in the ass eventually. I'm optimistic about that, and I feel like we're at that point where the whales are about to come off. So her campaign, they're now trying to get the rules changed for the one debate that she has agreed to. And it's not even her debate, it was Biden's debate that she just, jumped into. And she turned down Trump's proposal to go on Fox News. She hasn't agreed to do an NBC debate after this one. So she's ducking and dodging. And they'd rather go with the, zero debate strategy in lieu of actually having to answer some questions. Now what she's proposing, she wants to come up with some changes to the one that's already in place at ABC, and she's asking for the candidates to be seated and for them to have notes with them. So remember the clips we showed from the Harris debate, the Harris Pence debate? They were seated the whole time. She didn't want to stand up. And that I think is just one of those like eye tricks that, it's go back to Rocket Boy. It's the reason why Trump looks like such a badass next to him, because the guy comes up to Trump's belly button, guy towers over him. And that could be like a male female dynamic where Trump's just going to look more like, in control and more like he belongs than her. So I think that's why they want to be seated. Obviously, we know why she wants notes, because she can't think on her feet. You know what I mean? She can't. And the last piece that they're asking for now is, remember before they asked for the microphones to be muted when it was Biden versus Trump. Now Kamala is asking for the microphones to be unmuted. Now, you ever ask yourself and wonder why she might want them to be unmuted there? You got any theories for us, Juice?
I
I'm
think
speaking. I'm speaking. Juice, I'm speaking. Okay. That's
makes sense.
why.
Okay.
That's exactly why. But thank you, Juice, for helping me out there. But that's the bit they want to do, right? Like, why else would they make such a big deal
They
about
will
him
geek
being
out
muted the
over
first
that
time?
if she does that to Trump, what she
That
did to
what?
Pence. I said they'd geek out over that if she does
Oh yeah,
that bit to Trump that she did
hell
to,
yeah. They're
and
getting
then takes out a
shirts.
note card and actually like has something right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm reading off this note card. Mr. President,
That'd be
I'm
awesome.
reading. I'm reading.
I'm reading here. They're gonna have shirts printed out in advance, Juice, with the "I'm speaking" phrase on it. It's crazy. That's like, why else would
And
they
on the
want them
back, when we
unmuted?
fight, we win. Whatever that one is.
And I do something underneath it, an
Yeah.
exclamation point. Crazy. So that to me is just like, no, now you're just running. You sound scared. They're trying to accuse Trump of trying to duck out of the debate. The guy's never shied away from a camera. The guy's never shied away from being able to talk in front of people. Unscripted. He loves it. Whether good or bad, it could be a flaw at times for him.
Yeah, I
But
almost hope he stays more on script and she goes off on
absolutely.
script. Like I think that's
Absolutely.
possible.
Like I hope the microphones are muted because I don't like that's gonna happen. She's gonna manufacture it somehow and work it in, and it's not gonna play well. It's gonna be the the guy's mansplaining, being
Yeah,
a
she's gonna be a
bully.
victim, like, and Trump hates
Exactly.
women. Remember when he
Exactly.
raped Jean Carroll in a Bloomingdale's
Yeah,
restaurant
yeah.
or
And
whatever?
she thought it was kind of ravishing,
Yeah.
or
Oh,
sexy.
rape's kind of sexy.
Yeah,
I call my
that
cat
type of stuff.
pussy or something,
Oh,
vagina or something.
yeah, vagina. That was
And that
awesome.
lady won the civil case.
Oh,
So
yeah. So it's gonna be bad. So I hope they're not muted. I
keeping
really
this
do.
tight. Hey, want to keep this a little tighter?
Yeah, we should tighten it up. All right. So, what they're afraid of doing, Juice, is what happened to her 4 years ago when she completely flopped with her inability to speak on her feet. Now, her backers have hoped that you've forgotten about this clip from 2019 when presidential candidate Kamala Harris was asked how she would tackle health care. You want to give it to us, Juice?
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this? Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
All right, let's go to the next question.
Why that too?
Oh, you told me to move on. You're a prosecutor. I will.
Yeah, let's eliminate that. Private health care, Juice?
Yeah, let's
Eliminate
have 8-hour wait times to be seen.
Exactly.
You know, subpar care.
Oh, but don't worry. While you're waiting, we can loop that laugh over and over and over again for you at the
It
end.
had to be a cackle track, like a laugh
boy.
track. That was as bad as it gets.
That was brutal.
We need to solo that out. Like that's some of the best cackling.
Man. Imagine that, like if you're on hold for somewhere, like something, and it's just that over and over again.
Or imagine like she gets elected and just does that all the time.
Oh man.
State of the Union.
So that's what she said 5 years ago, what she wants to do, to health insurance and how she's going to handle it. Now,
Hasn't
just
said anything different, right?
Has not talked to anybody about this, hasn't done a press conference
So
about
why
it.
wouldn't we think this is where you stand?
Exactly. This is what she said. And Tom Cotton visited Jonathan Karl on ABC this week, and the subject got brought back up, and Cotton handled it great.
And President Trump is going to draw a sharp contrast with Kamala Harris, who has supported things like decriminalizing illegal immigration or giving taxpayer-funded health insurance to illegal aliens or taking away health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, banning gas cars, confiscating firearms.
What do you mean taking away health insurance? What are you talking about?
She said when she ran for president that she wants to eliminate private health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, John.
Yeah, I mean that is not her position now.
How do you know that's not her position? How do you know that's not her position?
I mean, she says she no longer supports Medicare for all.
She has not said that. Okay. Maybe anonymous aides on a Friday night have said that, but the last thing that she said on
this was not a radical convention. I mean, she as you heard me go through with Bernie Sanders, she is not taking the positions of the far left of her party. She's clearly making an effort to move to the middle.
I did hear what you said to Senator Sanders, and I thought it was clear that he's very disappointed that she's taking these efforts not to change her positions, but to hide her positions, John. The American people are totally justified to conclude that Kamala Harris is a dangerous San Francisco liberal based on what she campaigned on the last time she ran for president and what this administration has done for the last 4 years. Again, you would have thought watching the Democratic convention last week that the Democrats are not in office, that they're not in power, that they're campaigning against an incumbent Republican, when in reality, she's been part of the failures of the Biden-Harris administration for 4 years. And when she campaigned for president in her own right, she did in fact promise things like decriminalizing illegal immigration and taking away health insurance.
But that's a position she's clearly changed on, and she has said she has changed. Yes, she has.
No, she has not. John, she has not said that.
She has not said that.
She hasn't said any of it.
Like, why is he trying to defend her there too?
And when he knows there's no proof, there's no.
Yeah. Like, I don't even understand that. Let Cotton speak there and just be like, oh, wow, that interesting. Like there's a different way you can go about it. Like, why would he say that?
Yeah, like let's let him like not necessarily vouch for it, but also it lights a fire under her to come out and say where she stands on these issues.
Exactly. Let's hear from her about it then. You know, if somebody doing
I
that.
don't think she feels that way anymore, but yeah, we haven't technically heard it from her.
Exactly. Like, what do you think would happen if that was a lib on Fox News saying that about Trump? The guy would be calling in on the phone and be like, you're a liar. I never said that. And you're fake news. That's it. Crazy. So,
but yeah, that was a mic drop. That was like that was
really was
actually no, and then just fact. Like, legit receipt backed up with clips.
That's why we showed you the clip before, the first clip before the Cotton clip, to remind you guys what she said 5 years ago. And again, hasn't changed her tone on it. She hasn't said anything about it. And she hasn't been asked about it, which is the problem.
And to exactly what he said is, she's not, even if she is or leaking these kind of, I feel a different way currently.
Yeah.
That's just to appear more centrist, not to, just to get the vote. Like, that's not how she fits. You know what I mean?
And you know what strategy she's following? It's going to lead right into our next clip. The strategy that was presented by the Black Caucus when they met on their own at the DNC. And this was their advice. And I think Kamala, was taking notes there, writing this down. And this is her playbook. So go ahead, Juice.
Is she invited because she's half black, or she has to be like at the doorway, but not fully in?
Has to pick before going in.
You got 70 days to act right, y'all. That's right. Now, after 7 days, we can go back there and crazy. Right?
I'm going to play that again. It's quick. Just catch it.
You got 70 days to act right, y'all. That's right. Now, after 7 days, we can go back there and crazy. Right?
Yeah, just get elected, and then we can be as progressive crazy as we want.
That's what her boss did. That's what Biden did.
Yeah.
Ran as President
Just
Unity.
normal. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, get the adults
back in the room. Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
So that's it. And I just think hopefully people can see through this stuff. Hopefully we realize it. And if you can't see it specifically for yourself yet, this ad by the Trump team that they released should help you. And this thing should be airing on prime time, a couple of times a night until the election. It's brilliant. So, Juice, you want to hook us up with this one?
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Everyday prices are too high. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes. That is called Bidenomics. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today. Ground beef is up almost 50%. There's not much left at the end of the month. Bidenomics is working. The price of housing has gone up. It feels so hard to just be able to get ahead. And we are very proud of Bidenomics.
Brilliant, right?
It's brilliant, but it's crazy that it's even possible to make that ad. How could she say those things out loud and know that she's in the office? she's responsible for these things
I know.
to an extent. I know the vice president can only do so much, but how
Yep.
can you go on there and not even do a say in advance, hey, I've had my hands tied a little bit, but look at this economy. You know what I mean?
She wants the prestige of the vice presidency without any responsibility for the failures of the Biden-Harris administration.
Like I said, they would talk, her aides were coming out saying like, oh, she's kind of for a border wall actually now, if you haven't heard. Well, it's like, dude, you've had 3.5 years. You were the border czar. Like,
exactly.
You're into it now? No,
exactly.
It's a lie.
It's like what Cotton said in his clip. It's they're trying to run like they're going like they're not the incumbent, administration. Like they're trying to run against, a Republican
fixing their problems that they made. It's like, what?
Exactly. It's crazy. If you're too stupid to see that, like, I don't know, man. I don't know how to help you. Like, that's what we try to do the show here. I welcome in anybody from the left. I want you guys to see what we see here, and hopefully wake up the woke, right, Juice? That's the whole idea. And I get that that it's not easy to swallow your pride and admit when you're wrong sometimes, or if you're just a diehard Dem who's always voted blue. I think you can go back to being that after you fix the nonsense that's in there now. Like, it's not the return to normalcy. It's not the United States of America. It's Biden dividing, and she'll do more of it. And before we know it, I don't know, man. I hate to be hyperbolic with like there won't ever be an election again. Like, because I think we will still have elections. They just might be elections and show only, like some of these other countries.
Yeah, and they might be like, what are we even governing? There might be nothing left.
They want to pack the Supreme Court. They will. They're going to eliminate the filibuster if Harris wins. And I wouldn't be surprised if they try to add DC and Puerto Rico as states to make it the 52 states. That will bring 4 Democrat senators and, all of that representation in Congress and stuff. So it's crazy that we're at this point, but I really do fear that we're at a turning point right now that we might not be able to turn the ship around from if it doesn't go our way. Wasn't this supposed to be the optimistic thing right now?
If we lose, there won't be anything worth saving or fighting for again.
Well, I guess the reason I was optimistic is because I do think that people are going to see through that stuff. Like, you play an ad like that, it's right in your face. Even if you don't follow politics, how can you not see that? The one we just showed. So, and people fail it. People fail it in the wallet. I went, like, small sidebar. I know we're not as tight as we'd like to be, but grabbed Popeyes for my son tonight. 5-piece chicken tenders with fries, $16, Juice.
With a soda?
Yeah. $16. That's insane. So people
that's like
feel
stadium. That's like stadium prices.
It really is. Like, that's wild. I couldn't believe it. They said that. I was like, what?
Yeah, dude, people fail it 100%. And I think like the people there are the people who will vote with, like, their money is important to them and they have money and want to keep it, or the people are like, I really can't do this and make ends meet.
Exactly.
I think they're gonna they want to save face with the social issues, but might really tick a Trump box while you're in there. That's what I'm hoping for.
Exactly.
Like, dude, I might not survive. It's great. I'm not gonna maybe go tell this at the family party. That people. But I'm trying.
That's what I'm banking on, and that's what I think we will get. So, okay, let's bring this thing home, my friend, and go to our always fun, always popular, come on, man, segment of the day. For those of you who've been following and subscribing and liking our stuff from day one at the Right and Wrong YouTube page, Rumble page, Apple and Spotify, thank you. You guys already know that this segment is the one where we find a clip of somebody doing something, saying something that
sponsored to by Popeyes. We got a 5-piece one, right?
Maybe.
Call it the Biden inflation number 2.
I love it. So even though we're gonna make fun of someone here, there's not much else we could say to them except, what is it, Juice?
Oh, man.
Exactly. So Popeyes, let us know if you want to sponsor it. I like your idea. But let's get right to it. We have none other than crap. What's her first name? Kennedy daughter. I just wrote Kennedy's sister.
Is it Kerry?
Kerry Kennedy? Might be.
That's one of them. That was like on that. Remember, wrote that letter too.
Yeah.
Blue letter.
All right.
Either way, they might put a thing there. See,
we'll
like
throw
you
it in
got
the
my name, your name. If there were any type of legit outfit, they should put her little name on there.
Good point. So we'll find out.
Although this is Saki, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's true. We can circle back to it if we need to. But
go.
This is her commenting about her brother's endorsement of Trump.
Dude, not to be rude or anything, I didn't know that she also has the thing. You'll see in the clip. Doesn't it sound like she has? All right.
Let's see.
You know, I think this is really the stakes this November couldn't be higher, which is exactly why my whole family will be fighting so hard to reelect Kamala Harris and Coach Waltz, who've been champions for the values that my family has fought for years. Donald Trump is the polar opposite. He's a threat to most basic freedoms that are core to who we are as Americans, the right for women to control our bodies, the right to live in communities safe from gun violence, to love who you love. And I think if my dad were alive today, the real Robert Kennedy would have detested almost everything Donald Trump represents. His lying, his selfishness, his rage, his cynicism, hatred, racism, fascist sympathies, deliberate misinformation about vaccines, criminal felony convictions. Daddy was the Attorney General of the United States. His rape of E. Jean Carroll, his contempt for the poor and suffering, for ethics, democracy, healing, his cruel sneering at human rights for suffering of people in America and around the world. And these are the causes that was loved so passionately by the real Robert Kennedy. So I'm outraged and disgusted by my brother's gaudy and obscene embrace of Donald Trump. And I completely disavow and separate and dissociate myself from Robert Kennedy Jr. in this flagrant and inexplicable effort to desecrate and trample and set fire to my father's memory.
Dude, you're right. I didn't know she had it too.
Yeah. Like, that's not even what we have to focus on. If she does, so be it. That's sad. But what's even more sad is that she's blinded by this current progressive Democrat Party. Like, she's a Democrat. She has to be. She could never, not be a Democrat. But this isn't your dad, the RFK Senior Democrat Party. Like, he'd be rolling in his grave, like, saying that this is what you guys are defending. He'd be much more like Junior.
Of course he would. 100%.
It's like so crazy that it's breaking up a family that has had nothing but tragedy. And then, like, even this, like, you're going to go down with the ship of Kamala Harris versus your brother when it's, like, all lies and bullshit.
And you don't have to say anything. You don't have to agree with him. Like he said in one of his things, like in an interview actually on Sunday, in response to this, was like, I grew up in a family that, that like believed in healthy debate amongst each other. We actually were like pushed into debating each other, in family like settings, but we all love each other still afterwards.
Yeah, no, she's writing them off. That, like, not going to that funeral, like on the
it'd be like that exactly.
Yeah, we voted for Trump once.
It's horrible, man. And how about some of the things she dropped every ism you could think of there? Racism, misogynism,
human rights.
Yeah.
Coach Walls. He said Coach.
Coach Walls. Terrible. And
the everyman,
she brought up the rape that you mentioned.
Yeah, E. Jean Carroll.
Yeah, this guy, you're gonna throw shade at him. Her uncle, one of her uncles was basically the Andrew Tate of his time, and the other one killed a woman, literally abused her, and let her die while he saved his own ass. Like, you want to talk about Trump's character towards women? Like, come on. Like, you might have people somewhere, but that's the road you're going to go down and talk about your family's values? Like, come on.
And you're going to attach your, break up your relationship over like a Harris Walls ticket.
Exactly.
Not even like a legitimate Democratic.
Not even like
ticket.
a Obama. I could see the
he had everybody on board. He's a scumbag, but
no, he was at least
charismatic. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you could get brainwashed by him.
Clinton, even Bill Clinton, not his wife, Hillary, not charismatic, but like Bill, like, dig your heels in on that if you want. But the whole point of RFK Jr.'s campaign was, in the fact that he entered into this at all, was because this isn't his father's Democratic Party anymore. It's like that thing about, I didn't leave my party left me. Like, right? Trump was a Democrat at one point in his life. RFK was a Democrat at one point in his life. They just got an endorsement from Tulsi Gabbard, who was a Democrat, ran as a Democrat presidential candidate, governed as a Democrat. All these people have left that party, and now they're endorsing Trump, who's a Republican now, because of this nonsense. And
it's all Democrats at one point that are
crazy,
on the ticket or surrounding the ticket, endorsing him. They were all once Dems.
Yeah.
RFK,
Elon Musk is a big one, right?
Yeah.
He was
the Overton window has shifted. Like,
it has.
The left went
really
way over there, and
it's because of fake, phony ass people like Kerry Kennedy, who just live your life like that, like on the backs of your name, and whatever. RFK had advantages by being a Kennedy as well. The whole crew has, but how brainwashed can you be? And then her to go on and try to do all those hit pieces against her brother like that is like insane. Juice, would you ever do that to your brother?
No, he doesn't agree with my political stances all the time, or mostly ever. And he's still my buddy.
Yeah, and you guys can bring it up with each other and bust balls about it with each other, like, and it's fine. That's the beauty of this country. That's what we're trying to protect here. So it's crazy.
Shout out to Bones.
Yeah, that a boy, Bones. Thanks for having us. Hopefully you're still watching, my man.
That's doubtful.
We lost him a while ago.
Yeah.
All right. So Kerry Kennedy and the rest of the Kennedy family that disowned your brother just because he supported a Republican candidate. You guys have all earned yourself one big, fat, classic.
Come on, man.
And that'll do it for the show today. Once again, thank you guys for joining us. Please subscribe to the show. Don't forget, follow me on Twitter at DDRuka617. You're what over there?
At Juicebox1423.
Let's do it. Let's get those numbers up. Let's get the subscriptions going. And please drop a line for us. Say something in the comments. Maybe we'll read it on air if you're lucky. So until next week.
Thanks for having me.
For having us. The Right and Wrong Show is produced by Juice. Executive producer, Juice. Audio mixer is Juice. Hair by Skull Shavers. Wardrobe and makeup by Ashley Ruka. Right and Wrong song created by Juice. The Right and Wrong Show is copyright 2022 from Brian Ruka.